how do I sum up the opportunity for generative AI for the media and agency landscape, and what do they need to do next? I think the opportunity is in moving to the next level in terms of creating advertising content that really, really engages consumers and as a consequence becomes a lot more effective. And in practice, that is something that I think advertisers probably do in partnership with agencies and technology groups, rather than by themselves using completely open source or internally developed platforms. I think content generation is one thing, but I think it's content optimization where it gets really interesting. So I think we like to think that we could put a prompt into ChatGPT and come up with a whole advertising campaign. But the reality is, creating the campaign was never really the issue. You or I could create a campaign, it just probably wouldn't be a very good one. The exciting thing about this is that this technology can be used to tweak content on the fly so that it's more personalized or more contextual. And in that context, it can stand out and be more effective. What are the risks around transparency and trust in generative AI? There are, I think, a number of risks. I mean, there is the fact that the technology itself isn't a finished product. It's prone to hallucination. It's prone to just getting things wrong. But then more worryingly, it's prone to extend bias, and because it's ultimately a derivative technology working off the data that it's been trained on. And I suppose that's the point that we make, which is generative AI tools ultimately can only be as good as the databases that they're based on. There are a number of areas where regulation ends up being very, very important for the generative AI debate. And Europe has a track record of being quite, well, regulatory in its approach. The danger, obviously, is regulatory overreach, and that it ends up constraining innovation. But there are some really important aspects to the landscape where regulation is required. As I say, getting consent for data, making sure that you're not extending bias.